All right. What is going on, big dogs? I hope you guys are having a fantastic Monday. I am no one, and in today's video, we are going to talk about diminishing returns in the Ashes of Creation combat system. Now, you see, yesterday's video, we had a discussion about enchantments and enchantment value. And when I do these videos, I have to figure out what to include and what not to include. And so when I'm having a discussion on enchantments, I thought about whether or not I should include diminishing returns in the discussion because it is an important part of the combat system that they incorporated in this last week. But it's not, I didn't think it was important for discussing enchantments because I'll explain why in this video. Diminishing returns are important, but they're not important for discussing for the enchantment system. And so yesterday's video, the TLDR, if you guys don't want to go back and watch it, and you just want to pick up Cliff's notes where I left off, is the argument on the forums, the argument on YouTube, the argument that I've seen from a lot of people is the enchantment system isn't useful. There's no value in the enchantment system. Why would you spend hundreds of gold for a marginal increase in value? And the point is the value that you're getting isn't marginal. Like, there's a lot of nuance to this discussion, and the entire point with the enchantment system is that you can get a lot of value elsewhere and you could make a much stronger build. And so I got feedback from that. I got a couple of comments and then that I will address here. One of the comments was listed like this. Post, nobody magically switched to fighters because I made a discussion about how melee isn't currently used. Everybody is still playing what they played before. Tank players had the biggest gain this patch because now they're tanky as fuck and in a ridiculous way. There's a video on Discord where attack speed hacking fighter took almost 10 seconds to kill the tank he was attacking. Almost 10 seconds with a modified character, by the way. Now about enchanting. Enchanting is supposed to be a gold sink. Nobody's going to spend 20 to 100 gold on something that gives you no actual change. Plus 10 on an item gives 1 power. What is 1 power going to get you in PvE or PvP? Now, the tank part here has nothing to do with what I was talking about for enchantments, but this next part does, and so we're going to address that. Thanks to all these changes, PvE is extremely easy now. Ashes of Creation's PvE is not dangerous anymore. I can tank what's supposed to be unsoloable elites effortlessly, and I can't ever die. Not to mention that I have to deal with ridiculous stat numbers now. You guys got me cringing when you think all this is the right direction. Once again, PvE has nothing to do with my enchantment, my discussion on enchantment value. Like, I agree that PvE is quite a bit easier, but that has nothing to do with discussing enchantments. And so I got a little snarky on this comment because 80% of this does not apply to what I was talking about. I was talking about the enchantment system. And so when you look at this, almost 10 seconds with a modified character, that doesn't matter. Plus 10 on an item gives 1 power. What is 1 power going to get you in PvE or PvP? This is a very good point, and this is why I didn't include diminishing returns, because nobody in their right mind is going to invest 50 to 100 plus gold on a stat that gives 0 value increase. Like, they're just not going to do it. There's no value there. But we all are going to have different amounts of gold. We all are going to be running different builds, and what a fighter runs versus what a rogue runs are going to be two completely different things. Now, my value on what I want out of a rogue may be completely different than what I want out of a fighter. On a fighter, I might want a little bit more mitigation. I might want to get away with a little bit less damage because I have to stay alive long enough to do damage. Whereas on a rogue, I may go, you know what, I have stealth. I don't need as much mitigation. I can literally survive by being in stealth, and so I can stack more damage this way. And so there's going to be differing variables in the overall build, and I can go on, guys, for hours talking about all these different variables of different builds because this is my shit, guys. This is the stuff that I love. This is why I have a YouTube channel, because I love talking about builds. And I am not mad at this person or anything like that. I just want to address their question because they said they don't want me to ignore it. They think that I'm going to ignore it, or so they said in a previous comment afterwards. Feel free to avoid this, though, because this is one iteration, right? It's only uphill from here, I guess, right? So I am not going to avoid this. We're going to talk about it. And so that's what we're going to do. In this specific point right here, I have 2 different builds, and I wanted to show this to you. Both of these builds, the first one here has 10,877 physical power rating, okay? And the next one has 10,756, a difference of 120 physical power rating. So they roughly have the same amount of physical power, okay? And the reason I did this is let's just arbitrarily say that for us, what we're trying to get out of a fighter, around 11,000 physical power rating is what we want. Diminishing returns, like we want to get other things, right? But this is the diminishing return point for us. Keo, one of the guys in my Discord, he actually did a very nice regression chart showing roughly what the current value for diminishing returns with phys power rating is. And so he came up with this. And long story short, what he did is he found different physical power ratings and input their overall physical power that they were providing on the sides, and he got this chart. Now, this is just basically going up to 17,000 physical power rating. This is what the diminishing returns graph looks like currently. This doesn't mean that when you get to 20,000, it's not going to flatline more. It doesn't mean that they don't have a soft or hard cap or anything like that. We don't know. This is just the graph that we have with the inputted knowledge that we have off of different gear pieces, putting on and off and evaluating the physical power points. And so let's say around 11,000 is our no point. Like, we don't want to go any further because the graph is starting to flatline a little bit too much. That's what we have here. This is just under 11,000. There's no point in enchanting this any further because we're already at the cap that we want. And so we have Wolf and Maw level 10 at +0, level 10 +0, level 10 +0. These all have physical power rating. Reckless Doublet +1. Put this in heroic just so we can have that value a little bit higher. Cogknocker bracers in common. Polished tin gloves, no waste because they don't have physical power rating. Doesn't matter. All we want is physical power rating, right? Polished tin leggings in common, bear hide boots. And then we had to go legendary here in order for me to get to this value. So we have 1698 Forsaken Blade, and then we also have for the Forsaken Blade longbow with 1910 physical power rating. Bone earrings in common, bone necklace in common, and emerald rings. This, like I said, is 10,877 physical power rating. This build right here is 10,756. We have a Great Sword of Briarholm at +9. We have an Ancient Dungeon longbow at +9. We have Lumadon earring at +9, and we have a Lumadon earring at +9. These two quote-unquote builds are providing the same physical power rating. Now, the reason I'm showing it in this way, the reason I'm showing you guys the physical power rating, obviously, this is a very extreme example of what I'm talking about. I understand this, but this is the most extreme example that I can get to get my point across. These two builds have roughly the exact same power rating. And so if there's no point in enchanting past 10,700 because you're not going to get any more value in that specific physical power rating, you then would just enchant the pieces up to that point, and then you would save yourself pieces to put into something else. And so the point and the argument that I've been seeing on the forums, on YouTube, on all these discussions is people are saying that these two builds are basically the exact same. There's no point in enchanting this build. You have the same physical power rating and you're going to get diminishing returns. There's no point in enchanting this build because you're going to get diminishing returns. And so the entire point is if you get the right pieces with the right valuable stat bonuses, you now have a bunch of other pieces that you can enchant and replace. And this is the clearest cut way to show those differences. And so, sure, let's say I cannot get my physical power rating any higher on this specific build. You know what I can do though? Well, what else? Physical power rating isn't the only way I get damage. I also get it through penetration. I also get it through critical chance. I also get it through physical critical power. I also get it through things like procs, the Carfin gear providing necrotic damage. All these different things are also giving me damage. So instead of stacking into physical power rating here on my ring, I can now look and I can go, wow, look, these bloodied bone rings, they're not giving me physical power, they're giving me penetration. Penetration is a different form of stat. I'm going to ignore more armor. Maybe I want to put this on here, and we will enchant it up to +9. And so now we'll have the same physical power, but now I have more penetration. Now I have more than what the previous build did. Now let's go down here a little bit farther. Let's see, maybe there's something else we want. Maybe we're on a fighter and we don't want penetration, right? Like penetration isn't providing us more value currently. Maybe we want to go physical critical power. Right? Like instead of stacking into strength now and going to physical power rating, now we can go into crit chance and physical critical power. And so we are going to switch to the peddlers. And so now, instead of stacking into physical power rating, which is giving us no longer, there's no point in enchanting any further. We've already came to that point. We've hit the diminishing return cap. Now we're going to build into something else. And so now we're going to go into the peddler's rings, and we are going to switch these. And so, oops, sorry about that, guys. So now we are going to put, I see this is the one thing that you constantly have to change this in order to get these. So now we have physical critical power rating, and now we have dexterity added to our build that we didn't have previously. Now let's go look at the necklaces. Necklaces, physical power rating. We don't want this because we're already at diminishing returns. This is a very stat dense piece, but the highest value isn't useful for us. So we're gonna look at something else. Okay, we got June's Curious Pendant, physical critical chance, physical power, not great. Diminishing returns there, diminishing returns, dexterity and accuracy. That's not bad. We'll look at this one in a minute. This one's probably a little bit better for us. The Lumadon necklace, critical power, max health, accuracy. There's no wasted stats on this one. We could look at the Karfa necklace, lifesteal. Maybe we want some lifesteal instead of damage, but we're gonna say we're a fighter, and we're going to say that we want more damage. So we're going to ignore the ones with physical power. It looks like probably for us, we're going to go with the Lumadon necklace, and we're going to enchant this up to +9. So now we have the Lumadon necklace at +9. And now we got to look at body pieces. And so our physical power rating is already maxed out. We don't need to run physical power anymore. We can look at other pieces here. And so maybe we want to go here. Armor, mentality, physical power, dexterity, strength. Okay. We probably want something, because we're already at our physical power rating cap, we're going to look at stuff with resistances, we're going to look at stuff with dexterity, and we're going to look at stuff that are filling out the rest of our build, because we already have the physical power we need. Armor, magic resist, mentality, physical evasion, dexterity, and magical evasion. Okay. Maybe, I'm not saying this is best, guys, we haven't tested this, but maybe we want to run this at +9 because we're already at the physical power cap, but now we have armor and we have magic resist and we have mentality, which is more magic resist. This is a waterfall stat that is now going to give us a little bit more value than some of these other pieces. We also have physical evasion and magical evasion, which means that we're going to dodge randomly, and dodging attacks can be valuable based on what we're running. And then we also have dexterity here, so we're going to increase our crit chance. So this is, none of these stats are wasted is what I'm trying to say. And so we can switch that to +9. Let's go look at shoulders. We're going to do just a few more pieces. Just a few more here. So now we're going to go look, and once again, we're ignoring physical power because we're at the cap. Nobody would ever consider increasing more into that. Rosarium Guard Pauldrons, armor, constitution, dexterity, physical critical chance, physical disable reduction rating. These don't look bad. They don't look bad because, once again, we're not building into strength anymore because we're already at the cap of what we want, but we can build into something else. And so now what you're seeing here is, with our +9 pieces, not only do we have the same strength as this first quote unquote build, we now are able to stack into dexterity. We're able to stack into crit chance, and because we're critting more often, we're also stacking into physical critical power. And so when we crit with these peddler rings, we are going to crit even harder than this first build was. And so the entire argument based off of diminishing returns does not apply to the enchantment system. The entire point of the enchantment system is that what I am currently getting here with 15 pieces of gear from a physical power rating perspective, I am getting over here with 4, which means that I can make adjustments on my build for other things that I might want. And so I'm not saying that these are the best choices. You guys may have been watching this with me and going, dude, you're really gonna run the hat that looks like a circumcised penis? Like, you're really gonna run this hat? I would have chose 5 other hats. That's fine. That's more than fine. The point is because of the enchant and legendary system, and the enchant system is part of it, of course, but because of this, that means that we can make this adjustment and build into something else. We don't have to stack only into physical power. Now we're getting a lot more mitigation. And so these differences are really going to come into play. And so the question is are these two builds here the exact same now? Are they the exact same? Like, is there any point in building this? No, there's not. And so that's why this entire argument, in my opinion, falls apart. Now, obviously, like I said, this is a very extreme example of what I'm talking about, but hopefully you guys see that there's a whole bunch of gray area here. And I wanted to dive a little bit farther into that gray area, and I wanted to show you guys my current build that I'm running. And you guys can feel free to laugh at it. Obviously, the changes threw me for a loop, and I'm making adjustments on the fly as well. But this overall build is what I'm running. So Griffin Hood, Academus, Ashenhaun's Cloak, Academus at +3, 3. Academus. I wanted the 3-piece here to get the 360 phys power rating. This set's kind of bad right now with the new changes. If in an ideal world, I would want to switch this out. Polished tin, polished tin, polished tin, Forsaken Blade boots, and then I have the legendary Goblin Skin Stripper at +0, and I have the Longsight Bow at +3. And I had to switch out some earrings, necklaces, and some Halcyon rings that I currently have. And so this is currently my overall build, and this has roughly 11,892 physical power. Now, I think personally for me, around 13,000 phys power is the diminishing returns that I want, but I've been trying to test different things and see which pieces I wanted to replace. And I wanted to show you guys an example. So currently, this Halcyon ring was really good before this last week. And because it gave a waterfall stat, it gave strength. And being able to stack into a waterfall stat meant I was getting a lot of other things. It gave max health and armor. But now with the changes, it's not super great from a damage perspective, right? So 50 strength is 150 phys power, and it's 150 phys power rating. And roughly with where I'm at phys power wise on this cool graph that Keo built, it's roughly, overall, when I start adding marginal returns, it's roughly around 50 phys power to 1 for everything that I add on. So this isn't providing let me go back to mine. It's not providing me a ton of damage. Like this isn't providing me a ton. So it's like, okay, my physical power rating for this specific setup is providing me diminishing returns. Which piece should I switch out first? And so I'm looking at the rings because these are +10 and they're not providing a bunch of phys power. And the thought crossed my mind, hey, what if instead of stacking phys power rating, what if I stacked penetration, right? Like I will put penetration on. And the cool part about this bloodied bone ring, is when you compare the two, it's providing 48 strength. And my current Halcyon ring is providing 50 strength. And so they're very, very close damage-wise with just based off of strength. But the difference is this one has a little bit of dex, which doesn't really matter. And it also has 625 penetration. And so now I get to see like, okay, what is the penetration value I'm getting off of this one ring? These are very close in strength value. The difference in damage will be my penetration. Well, I went and I tested this against one of my guild members that has 6 heavy armor pieces. He's got 6 heavy armor pieces, a lot of physical mitigation built in that way. And I was like, okay, let's see how much damage I get off of going penetration, because this is another way to get damage. What we found is no matter what skill I used, I was doing the same amount of damage on my specific build. I was doing the same amount of backstab damage. I was doing the same amount of auto attack damage. All my skills were doing the exact same value if I had a Halcyonite ring here compared to the Bloodied Bone ring at +0, which means that this 625 penetration rating is either not working or I hit diminishing returns on penetration. And so, as was said in that post, nobody would ever upgrade something that's giving them no value. I'm not going to run a Bloodied Bone ring when I already think when it's not providing me any value versus somebody running very high resistances. So I already know that this isn't a piece for me. So what I did is I switched it out for this currently. And the reason I'm running this is because, yes, I am losing 50 strength, but I am getting additive weapon necrotic damage rating, which slightly offsets the damage loss, but then I get lifesteal. And so now, instead of me having roughly the same damage, I now have more healing on my build, which boosts my survival by a lot. Now, this isn't the only way to go about doing it, of course. Like you guys could be looking at this and you could be saying, dude, why would you run lifesteal? Well, it's what I had. Like, I don't have all these different rings. There could be better choices here. And so I went out and I also got this Peddler's Ring, which is another example of what I'm talking about. So now I get to test this. This gives me more crit chance, and this gives me physical critical power. I already am at the diminishing returns point, I think, for where my build kind of is. I will be having these iron rings crafted later on this next week. So I will be testing out physical power at a higher level and whatnot. And so I will have those, but now I will be testing these because the Bloodied Bone ring didn't give me any more damage. I know I'm at the diminishing cap or it's not working correctly. I don't know which one. And so that's just one example. One nuanced discussion on a specific build of what people are running. Now, does this mean when I'm at the physical power cap of like when I'm here, does this mean that my build is done and I shouldn't upgrade physical power anymore? No, absolutely not. Like that's a silly way to go about looking at it because this bow is only +3. And you see I'm at 2867. So if I upgrade this, I can't type. So if I switch this, if we look at it at +3, you see 3264 on the top end for physical power rating. If I upgrade it to +9, we go up to 3454. We also go up to 405 strength versus 383 strength. So what this means is if I upgrade this to +9, that means I'm more or less offsetting, and I upgrade, let's say I upgrade the Goblin Skin Stripper here also to +9 because it's relatively easy to get. Oh, well, are we not gonna upgrade to +9 here? Come on. So if I upgrade both these to +9, you see that I am getting enough physical power and strength to basically replace one of these bone earrings. And so if I was at the diminishing returns cap that I wanted, I could go in here and I could replace this very common bone earring with something else that gives me more value. Maybe I want lifesteal. Maybe I want max health. Maybe I want health regeneration. I'm not saying that this is good. I'm definitely not, but I'm saying now because of the enchant system, because these two pieces are now enchanted to +9, it allows me to replace one of the other pieces that I was already running. And so I get to flesh out my build more. Do you see in this real example how my build drastically changes due to the stats that I had? No longer under the current system are we just stacking strength or stacking dex or stacking intelligence and getting a little bit of everything. Now we're making choices as to what we want out of our build, what we want out of our specific archetype, what we specifically want and what we value first on this build is physical power rating. What do we value second though? Do we value mitigation? Do we value crit chance? Do we value critical power? Do we value health recovery? Do we value evasion? What do we value next? What can we put in here and replace due to the upgraded system? Due to being able to enchant both of these pieces to +9. This is just an option. It literally getting both these pieces to +9 replaces one of my pieces, as an example. So that's the point of the enchantment system. It's not, once you get to the cap doesn't matter. Like the desert, the desert obviously doesn't exist, but the diminishing returns on what the current system is don't matter. They don't matter because once you get up to that point, you just build into something else. Now, as an aside, I do think that the diminishing returns system that they currently have, I think it's just a placeholder for them to figure out where their damage is at. I don't know for sure, but I think once you start seeing a bunch of legendary pieces at +9, you're kind of delving into the place where we were before, where you kind of have a little bit of everything, right? Like you have a little bit of strength, you have dex, it's basically like stacking into waterfall stats all over again because I can get all the phys power rating I want out of 3-4 pieces fully maxed out. And then I get to stack in other things. I can then stack into dex, I can stack into penetration, I can then stack into mitigation. And we're heading in the direction where we were before with waterfall stats. And so this is more unique though. This is more nuanced and it's going to be very, very build dependent. And so none of this has anything to do with PvE, of course. None of this has anything to do with where PvE currently is. I do agree that that is quite a bit easier. I also agree that it doesn't change the balance a lot of what builds are running. And I do think people are stepping away before phase 3. I also think that that is the case as well. But none of that has any value on what the current enchantment system is and what kind of strength that you can provide with the enchanting system. Now, hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully you guys can see visually. Obviously, like I said before, these examples are very, very extreme. Of course, they're very extreme, but it paints the picture of what the system is. When you're done building in one way because you've reached your theoretical cap, you can then build into something else. So I'm going to end this video here. If you guys have any questions or comments, please provide in the comment section below and I will do my best to answer it. As always, guys, thank you for watching. Have a nice day.